let's get started with Chapter 9, Spring 1992 in Berkeley, and Summer 1992 in San Francisco. So let me update this part. So things got better when spring had sprung, but this time people stopped burning wood in their home fireplaces. Kim was able to breathe easier. However, she was still under Dr. Cruz's care, and he called her weekly to get an update on her progress. Are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need your prescription adjusted? Do you need a refill? Things like that. So she continued to use the medical grade face mask just in case. And she kept her prescription inhaler on her person at all times in case she needs it for acute attacks. Asthma. At this time, she stayed hydrated by drinking plenty of hot beverages, such as amezake, which is non-alcoholic sake-based drink, and lemon tea with honey. And she made certain to spend about 15 minutes each day at the state sauna as well. Dr. Cruz told her that research is urging caution. If asthma is poorly managed, a sauna might actually make things worse. However, it can improve lung function, increase breathing capacity, and reduce the overall risk of acute and chronic respiratory conditions. Kim kept her promise that she will stop if it's making things worse. Spring 1992 went quickly for Kim. As usual, she took 2 music classes, 2 public health classes, and an introductory statistics class. Right before spring break, she went to her accountant to file her income tax. Much to her relief, she's paying her own tuition, she's paying her own rent, so she didn't owe any income tax. Instead, she got a refund check. She immediately put the check into her savings account at a local bank to collect interest. Early that year, while Kim was doing homework at the university, she watched the 1992 Winter Olympic Games. That year, it was held in Alberta, Canada. This province is in central Canada near the west coast. In contrast, Toronto, where she went to the public university in Canada, that's in central Canada toward the southeast coast. The fact that the very first Asian American woman who won the gold medal in figure skating was bittersweet. Sponsors did not see her as American. Instead, they saw her the same as her counterpart, who is made in Japan Japanese. Never mind that this Asian American figure skater spoke American English fluently. But people would still judge by the face, and you would think 1982, hey, we're air quotes woke, but no, we weren't. Although Kim was disappointed, she was not surprised. In this country, every person who starts something new experiences backlash and has to learn things the hard way. That way, the next person will have a much easier time. Since then, there have been several Asian American figure skaters who have benefited from her struggle to get endorsements. Same thing, the first queer U.S. Olympic athlete to win the gold medal also experienced tough time getting endorsements. So, of course, now it's like, it's a non-issue, but back then, anybody who started something new, they had the tough time getting endorsements. Around this time, Kim got a letter, from postal mail from her younger sister in Japan. Kim saw that Emma was judging that's an Asian American Olympic gold medalist in figure skating by her made in Japan standards, which makes sense because she's in Japan right now, and that's all she's getting. So Kim can see that her sister Emma is not seeing her as Asian American with a hyphen. Kim shook her head in disbelief. This entire world is still far behind from where it needs to be. Also around this time, Marina, who is Jonathan's wife, yeah, they just got married that summer, the previous summer. So Marina had her baby shower. Kim took the public tram from Berkeley to Brisbane that weekend. Kim knew exactly what to get her. She made some handmade throw pillows. They were made from soft terry cloth and shaped like clouds. Much to Kim's relief, Marina said that they were cute and hugged Kim. Soon after Kim had her final exam, Marina did go into labor. Her husband Jonathan, took her to the birthing center in San Francisco. Fortunately, they barely made it in time because the baby was already crowning. Marina was grateful that her third baby arrived quickly because she didn't know if Jonathan could handle a long and complicated process. Their new baby's name is Jonathan Kaneshiro Mormi Jr. Jonathan was born Kaneshiro, and then he married her, Marina Mori. That's her late husband's last name. And both of her children from her late husband, their last name is also Mori, so they have to make sure there won't be any confusion about who's the father, his relationship with her children. So Jonathan became senior, so now he's not Jonathan Kaneshiro Mori Senior. In the weeks before the birth, Marina's extended family from Los Angeles, because she's from LA, and Jonathan's extended family from Hawaii, took turns flying into San Francisco and helping the new parents. Marina's two children with her late husband were grateful to see familiar faces, including uncles, aunts, grandparents. They haven't seen them ever since they moved the whole family from Los Angeles to San Francisco. Maria, who works at the studio, she also helped out her aunts because she's from the Murphy family of San Francisco. Her aunt started the Murphy Garment Factory. In addition to cloth diapers, cloth postpartum pads, they also sewed waterproof postpartum mattress pads, cloth postpartum belly belts to help ease back pain and discomfort, as well as cloth nursing pads and burping towels. So you can tell the Murphy family, they're traditional. Rather than go to the store and buy all this plastic stuff, they actually had to make the stuff that the new mom needs. So, since Jonathan and Maria work at the same studio, Maria probably said, would it be alright if I help you guys out, because it's going to be very expensive to get all those materials. Plus, with disposable diapers, it seems cheap. In the short term it is, but when you take a look at the landfill, all those diapers in landfills, and the fact that they don't biodegrade, it's actually better to use cloth diapers because then you can dump the contents into the toilet, flush it, and then hand wash the diaper and hang it to dry. So they're reusable, it saves the environment. Same thing, postpartum pads, the hospitals will give you the plastic ones. But with cloth ones, you could, again, same thing, you could wash them, dry them, and then reuse them. So, you're putting less strain on the landfill. You got the mattress pads also, because, I think the hospitals, they will also give you the plastic ones. So, this one, it's handmade. Belly belts, same thing. I think the hospital also gives you like the plastic ones or the polyester, latex ones. Same with nursing pads and burping towels. So anyway, although Kim wanted to stay and help them, help the new mom, Kim knew that she has to focus on doing everything that's needed to graduate on time. So Peter's brother-in-law, Lucas Grant, he's the senior executive producer of the studio. He temporarily took over Jonathan's job at the studio while Jonathan went on paternity leave. Around this time, Kim got a paper letter in the mail from Hawaii from postal mail. James and Kim wrote the final letters to each other, finalizing his visit in San Francisco with his sister earlier that summer. So James and my sister are from Hawaii. Kim met James the year before. They did the speed dating. So James like, gonna be alright if I visit you in San Francisco and I bring my sister along. Kim's like, yeah, sure, do it. Let's do it. At the post office, Kim also wrote a letter to her GP, general practitioner in London. I'm sorry, she can't go to London that summer. Fortunately, the GP told her, don't trouble yourself. He sent over 1 year's worth of natural progesterone cream. Asked her to let him know when she'll visit London next time. Kim went to her bank, took the money wire to England, and asked for a receipt for income tax. A few weeks later, she got the receipt via postal mail. So keep in mind, why is she doing all this? This is before online banking. So before you actually had to physically go to the bank and have them do that, because they have the technology, the machines, specialized machines and resources to do that. Today we could just do that online. Also, Kim needed to get her senior capstone project underway because next year, starting the fall, she's a senior. She's got to get the senior capstone project completed, and she's got to pass all her classes. So she took 3 correspondence classes. So bear in mind, 1992, online classes were not a thing. Or if it was, it's not what it is right now. So back then, 1992, professors and students used postal mail to be taught various subjects. For public health, she took a course on how to write academic papers. She started by asking which format her senior capstone must be written, sources cited. Is it the American Psychological Association? Is it Modern Language Association? For music, she took a course on how to create your own record label. By the end of summer, Kim had the first draft of both ready for her professors to edit. The 3rd correspondence class was intermediate statistics because spring she took beginning statistics. That way, in the fall, she can take the advanced statistics. Same as her introductory statistics class, Kim kept all of her lecture notes, quizzes, and tests. She did this so she could use this as reference. So when she's ready to make her senior capstone, she could cite it. And then when she goes to get her master's thesis, she'll be able to use those notes to help her put the master's thesis together. And as she took these statistics classes, she reread peer-reviewed scientific research journal articles from the 3-ring binder. She's been collecting all these articles about endometriosis. Now that she's learning statistics, she can reread those and she can start understanding the statistics section. Summer was busy. During the morning, she worked at the clinic. They had her start by filling out new patient paperwork. Why is she doing this? So that way, when new patients come to the clinic and they have questions, she'll be better able to answer the questions because she already went through this process. Also, the clinic needs to know as much information about her physical health, her medical records, so they can better help her. She started the week making appointments to see the various specialists, getting the lab work done, going over the relevant medical records, and at the end of the week, their weekly meeting was all about her, about their findings. So not just her medical records, but also what they found out about her. And then put together an action plan how they can help her. So first, the team told Kim what they have learned over the past year with their existing patients. Each patient has a different set of symptoms, different severity symptoms, and then each patient has a different treatment plan that works for them. So each treatment has to be custom made for each patient. So what works for one patient may or may not work for all the others. The clinic's functional medicine specialist said that he's already booked a flight to England. He wants to know more about natural progesterone cream and what he needs to do to prescribe it at their clinic, so that way Kim doesn't have to keep going back and forth with England to get a new prescription. Also, He said that the clinic is working on having an on-site phlebotomist and clinical lab technician. That way they don't have to keep telling the patients to go to a different lab, different location to get their blood work done. So in terms of physical therapy, Peter started with manual techniques to reduce her monthly pain. He immediately found some of the lesions and adhesions and gently detached the adhesions. Almost immediately her pain was lessened. Also, he saw a mild case of small bowel obstruction. So he also started manual therapy to help her digest food more efficiently. At this time, he also did a follow-up of her old hand injury because when they first met, he touched her hand. He noticed that there's some adhesions in her right hand. Although Kim did manual therapy on her own every day, he did some more work so she will have better mobility in that hand. At this time, he made the mental note to do the same for Emma because Emma also has a old injury on her hand as well when she returns from Japan. The environmental medicine specialist was not surprised that Kim's body is full of toxins. This isn't just the wildfire from the tunnel fire from the previous October. Home construction during the 1960s were full of companies using asbestos, lead-based paint, including cutting corners to rush the building in time to get the residents moved in quicker. So he started her on a detoxification regimen. Much to Kim's embarrassment, the nutritionist, Roshin, just got back from a business trip in England to talk to the nutritionist who went through numerous surgeries to treat her endometriosis. The nutritionist, not Roshin. Long story short, Kim was eating a lot of foods that increase inflammation, which makes sense because she was in LA and she was in New York City for a while. She went to Europe. She spent the year in Canada. So there's a lot of, inflammation that's been piling up. And some of these locations may or may not have, made in Japan ingredients. So they started to work on substitute ingredients. Also, again, Kim's from Japan. It started with food from Japan that naturally decreases inflammation. So miso, matcha, green tea, fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, seaweed, shiitake and maitake mushrooms, natto, fermented soybean meats, ginger, and wasabi. But wasabi, it's not the green tube that's ultra processed that you see in the grocery store. It's that this is the fresh rhizome, and you hand grate it. So fortunately, they live in the Bay Area. So right now, Kim's now in the Bay Area. No more excuses. There's a lot of Japanese grocery store, authentic Japanese grocery stores in San Francisco and Berkeley. So no more excuses. She's got to get a handle on what she's eating and make sure she only eats food that's not going to upset her female parts. So there was one shocking news. Came from allergy asthma specialist Dr. Cruz. He's the one where he and his wife, Shannon. Shannon is the acupuncturist. They got married. Dr. Cruz started by asking Kim how her asthma is doing. Although it took her a while to learn how to use the peak flow meter and the center spirometer, Kim is gradually using both to help her slowly increase her lung capacity and strength. However, when he looked at her MRI scans and doctor's report from England, because she had that MRI done in England, he was not completely certain whether or not Kim really has asthma. Kim gasped and covered her mouth. At this time, he asked her if she knows what thoracic endometriosis is. Kim shook her head. After he went to his office, he gave her one of his old medical dictionaries. He said she could have it. Every year they publish a new edition. He already has the new edition. After Kim thanked him, she opened the dictionary, went to the T section. When she moved her fingers down the page, she stopped when she saw the word thoracic. She was devastated. The disease was not only on her reproductive organs, they were also on one of her lungs. It made sense because each time she's on her period, she has sharp pain in that lung. Also, he showed her the images in the doctor's note. She was additionally devastated. The disease is also on her diaphragm. Finally, he gave her a pamphlet about thoracic endometriosis surgery. If, and only if she's lucky, then they will only need video-assisted thoracic surgery. In addition to endometriosis surgery for female parts, hospital stays about 1 to 3 days. So rather than have the surgery the next morning she's discharged, she's going to have to stay a little bit longer. The anesthesiologist will add an epidural in addition to general anesthesia during the surgery to reduce her need for post-op pain medicine, because she's also going to have surgery done on her lung and diaphragm. However, if the disease is serious or in a hard-to-reach area, then they have to open her chest. She needs open chest surgery. Either way, the doctor will recommend hormone-suppressing medicine to prevent the disease from coming back to her lung. Kim told them her mother took full dosage birth control pills after her younger sister was born in this country. Only time will tell what effect they will have on her mother's long-term health. That being said, Kim is against using birth control pills, even if it's low dosage, even if it's short-term, even if the research says it's safe and for short-term usage. Moreover, Kim needs time to seriously think about this. She can't just decide, okay, I need endometriosis surgery, I'll agree to thoracic, but the hormone suppressing medicine you have to take after that, she needs time to think about it. And she is well aware once the surgery starts, she can't just backpedal and says, oh, I changed my mind, so. Now, although the staff did not agree with her decision, because if the doctor says you need to take this medicine, you have to take it. They respected her decision. So, at this time, Dr. Cruz introduced Kim to a device called the breather. It was made in 1980. During the past year, it has helped some of his patients breathe easier. They also have a similar device for athletes and singers. So this device is also custom made for athletes because they need, especially like swimmers, they need a lot stronger lung capacity to be able to get through the water, and breathe differently than when they're on the surface. Same thing with singers. Singers, they need to be able to throw their voice without straining their vocal cords. So they also have a custom-made device to help singers. After he taught her how to use it, he gave her an unopened box of instructions, so she gave her a brand new one. Much to Kim's relief, this was much easier for her to learn how to use. Moreover, it helped her get her numbers up on her peak flow meter and incentive spirometer. Before the meeting ended, the nurse practitioner, Ona Murphy Kelly, gave Kim a book. Kim gasped and covered her mouth. Kim had the 4th edition of the Boston Women's Health Book Collective series called Our Bodies Ourselves. Since she was busy with school, she did not realize that they published the 5th edition for the 1990s earlier that year. So she got the book out of this whole deal too. Book, a new device to help her breathe easier. After the meeting, Peter pulled her aside because you can tell she's worried, her mind's spinning. She admitted she understands. Peter feels the need to help her, whatever he can help her. And he realized that she's overwhelmed by the cost. In 1992, the cost was about $7,500. Now keep in mind, back then California minimum wage was about $4.25 an hour. So she would have to work 33 weeks full time just to, the minimum, minimum cost for the surgery. And this is not even including the fact that at least 15% of her each paycheck she has to pay income tax. So it's actually more than, it's 33 weeks plus another 15% on top of that she would have to work just for one surgery. And that's assuming that there's no complications and they don't find anything else that's wrong. So Kim was worried, how are they going to figure out, the other thing she was worried about, how are they going to figure out which doctor in the hospital will yield the best outcome, because she heard from Maria. Maria is, once in a while you do hear people with endometriosis surgery, they had one surgery and it fixed everything. But most people with endometriosis surgery, it's more like Glenna, her sister-in-law in New York City. She had a horrible experience. Although she was able to have one son, soon after she had an ectopic pregnancy where they had to remove the one healthy ovary she had left because the other one has the disease. She can't have any more kids. So that's the other thing Kim's worried about. You can't just, he's a specialist, have him do the surgery and then wake up and then you're in severe pain, or you got complications, or you're not able to have kids, or you are able to get pregnant but then you lose the pregnancy. So there's just a lot of stuff going on she's worried about. Also, she was worried also about her parents as well, because even if her mom doesn't have endometriosis, maybe her mom might need surgery later on, or her father might have a stroke or heart attack, just all these things. So keep in mind, this is before Obamacare, so neither of her parents have health insurance. Now, ideally, if something happens in Japan, they're Japanese citizens, they still have the Japanese citizenship, they would be covered by Japan's national healthcare system. However, they don't have enough money. However, in this country, they don't have enough money to cover a basic hospital bill. Also, this country's health insurance is state dependent. If you have insurance in California and then you have surgery in, for example, Maryland, that's not going to cover it. You're out of network. You're out of state. So Peter said that he'll talk to his father. Okay, so later on, Peter's father learned about international health insurance. So while her father is staying in Canada for the next 2 years, he'll be covered under international health insurance. With private insurance covering medical care outside the person's home state, Kim and her mother will get non-emergency planned care. And Peter's father did make a pre-stay in San Francisco. Stop worrying about medical care costs. I got your back. So also, Kim at this point, she hasn't had surgery yet, so she's not formally diagnosed, because they say surgery is the only way to get diagnosed. So he will omit that information from the insurance company. When Kim thanked him, he nodded. She breathed a sigh of relief. Fingers crossed, they will never need to use this. About a couple months later, she got a brochure in the mail with proof that Mr. Alloway is paying the monthly premium for all three people's insurance. So Kim, okay, stop worrying. This is not an issue anymore. Just focus on graduating on time. Since Kim needed to work at the front desk for the rest of the day, they gave her space to think, because they can tell her mind's spinning. So around this time, Peter's wife, Tammy Fujiwara Alloway, worked closely with Kim, teaching her everything she needs to know about how the clinic is running. And they started with the front desk, processing your patient paperwork. Because she already filled out her own paperwork, so now when somebody walks to the front desk, I have a question, how do you, what it says this, but what does it mean, or how do I get that information? Kim helped them. So Kim worked the front desk processing your paperwork. There was one hiccup in the hallway with patient examination rooms on both sides of them. One of the patients discreetly approached Kim and asked whether or not Peter has a brother. Now granted, this may have been an innocent question. However, in this professional medical clinic environment, that is not appropriate to ask. So Kim put her game face on. She feigned ignorance. She pretended to not know. So she just shrugged her shoulders and told the patient, I don't know. Now, after the patient left the clinic, Kim discreetly pulled Tammy aside, talked to Tammy. After Tammy thanked Kim for the intel, Tammy discreetly went to Peter's office and asked if he had a minute. After she carefully closed the door, she talked with her husband. The next time the patient arrived at the clinic, Peter talked discreetly to the patient. Although Kim was disappointed that the patient never came up with an excuse, and canceled her next appointment, she never returned. They did bring this up at the next staff meeting, because anything that happens to the clinic, everybody needs to know so everybody's on the same page and they can give each other feedback. Much to Kim's relief, she did the right thing. The last thing the clinic needs, because they just opened up, is a potential scandal. And they knew that the local news media would pounce on a juicy story and blow things out of proportion even if nothing happened. So after Kim learned everything there is to know about this clinic, they had her work at the clinic in the mornings, and then they have her work at the studio in the afternoon. The studio was completely different from the clinic. Clinic, everything is completely professional. Everything is by the book. You got proper protocols for everything. The studio was a little bit more relaxed and informal. It's still professional, but you can be a little bit less, So, Jonathan's on paternity leave, so Lucas, Peter's brother-in-law, and Maria, Peter's friend from college, they kept Kim busy with their projects. Now, she mostly helped Lucas film various locations in San Francisco and Santa Cruz for his ongoing project documenting the progress both communities are making in rebuilding after the Loma Prieta earthquake. Fortunately, several newspapers and local television stations continued to pay for his footage and photographs to add to their anniversary news clips every year. October 17th, they talk about the earthquake, interview people, where were you when this happened, what was your reaction, and they also show, this is what San Francisco looked like in the aftermath of the earthquake, the highways, downtown Santa Cruz, and then now this is what it looks like 1990, 1991, 1992, and so on and so forth. And Lucas is also making his own documentary about the earthquake using his footage of the reconstruction process as well. So you can see, over the years, how the different streets are changing, different buildings are changing, the highway. They actually moved obviously, the highway was one on top of the other, they were pancaked. They actually decided, we'll just demolish it, the old highway, build a brand new highway, and this time we'll make sure that the highways are not pancaked on top of each other. Toward the end of summer, Kim saw two people leave their car in their neighborhood in Brisbane. She immediately recognized one of them as James. After Kim got her car into the detached garage near the grand unit, James introduced Kim to his sister Elizabeth. His sister asked Kim, just call me Eliza. At this time, James also asked Kim to call him Jimmy. So now we're no longer going to call him James, we're going to call him Jimmy. And his sister's name is Eliza. They were staying at the vacant unit in their neighborhood. The Murphy family owns the entire property until all the units are occupied by owners. At their living room, Kim got down on her hands and knees on the carpeted floor and did her formal introduction. She's doing the Japanese thing. Because she doesn't know, are they, how Japanese American are they? Are they completely American, or do they do some things that are Japanese? So Jimmy said that's not necessary. Asked her, please sit on the couch. So at this time, he gave her a gift bag with tissue paper. She immediately told him that, oh, this is not necessary. You don't need to give me gifts. But he shook his head and he insisted. When she opened the bag, she gasped and covered her mouth. Inside, there were some vintage 1980s plush toys of various animals where the hands can grip onto pencils, person's finger, and other objects. Kim said that she had to donate hers when her family sold their home in their former hometown. Jimmy said that little birdie told him some of what she had to give up. So when she thanked him, he nodded. At this time, she made a mental note to thank Peter the next time she sees him. At this time, she excused herself. She took her gift to her room. Next, she got 2 book gifts. She gave a 1992 edition, the one that the clinic gave her. She actually got another copy at the local bookstore. The Boston Women's Health Book Collective titled Our Bodies Ourselves, 1990 edition, to Eliza. And she gave Jimmy the 1990 book by Mae Nakano about 3 generations of Japanese American women from 1890 to 1990. After they opened the gifts, they looked at each other. Eliza carefully asked Kim whether or not it would be alright with her if they swapped gifts. Kim immediately told them, do whatever you want. Eliza explained that she'll graduate with a master's degree in psychology the following spring. Her thesis is about intergenerational trauma in the Japanese American population. To be honest, although Eliza has a collection of books, she didn't know about Mae Nakano's book. Because even if you do like a thorough research, there's so many books out there about Japanese Americans that I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody who doesn't know some of the books. Jimmy said that he'll graduate from medical school the following spring. His dissertation is about what they currently know about how physical therapy can help patients who have endometriosis. So he wants the medical book. She wants the book about Japanese Americans. So that made sense. Next, they started by setting up the ground rules. Jimmy said that Eliza has cystic fibrosis. Kim knew that Peter also has the same condition. However, Kim apologized for her ignorance. She needs to know what accommodations Eliza needs. Eliza explained social distancing. Don't shake hands. Don't hold hands. Don't kiss. Eliza went over her medications and how she needs Kim to talk to her. Because make sure you don't say something, even if it's like a joke, or somebody with a life-threatening medical condition that does not have a cure. There's certain things that you don't go there. This is a boundary. Don't cross it. So Kim wished this was the conversation that people have with each other rather than being in your face about how to speak with people who are different from them. So while they made dinner together, Kim apologized about the fact that she does not feel comfortable using a microwave oven. For some reason, she doesn't know what the reasons are. She forgot to mention that at the clinic. They make her feel really sick whenever it's that time of the month and that machine's running. So Jimmy immediately waved his hand away. No, don't worry about it. He thanked her for letting him know, being assertive. He needs to know all the Kim's restrictions and limitations. He'll make certain to not use any microwave ovens whenever she's around. At this time, they worked together on Kim's ground rules. At this time, Jimmy carefully asked Kim, can we just a little bit, talk about politics? He will make sure he doesn't ask what political affiliation, what is her political affiliation, and he's not going to tell her his either. Now, Kim was against it. Kim was like, I already told him, don't talk about politics. But, they've been pen pals for over a year, so she already got a chance to get to know him better. So she's like, okay, just this once, I'm going to give you, this is what I think is going on. This is my opinion. It's not fact. Kim said that she read G. Wakatsuki Houston's autobiography titled Farewell to Manzanar. Eliza says, she already knows that book. She's familiar with that one. The president during World War II was a Democrat. Kim also did additional research. She carefully noted a Republican president pardoned the woman. So this is back in 1970, 1950s, 1960s, about there. So a Republican president was the one who pardoned the only person who they thought was Tokyo Rose. And then a different Republican president signed 1988 Civil Liberties Act, formally apologizing for incarcerated Japanese Americans during the Second World War and provided financial reparations. Granted, Japanese Americans have been working very hard behind the scenes from 1960s, 70s, 80s, and it went through several Democrat Republican administrations, but obviously you know how politics works. The Republican, got all the credit. One president will get all the credit for all this back work, decades of trying to get the government to apologize and offer even just a little bit of, compensation. So, although Jimmy didn't see this pattern before, he had to admit that she made some very good observations. And he doesn't agree with Kim, but he's like, yeah, I respect your opinion, and you do make some valid points about what you see happen in this side of the country during the war. So in addition to the Second War, Kim said that when the president, who was a Democrat, was in the White House, so another Democrat, Cuban Americans were sent to the Bay of Pigs in Cuba to try to overthrow the administration. Authors note, why does Kim know about this? Not just Maria, because Maria's mother and parents are from Cuba. But Kim's other favorite singer is Gloria Estefan. Her father, Gloria Estefan's father, was also one of the Cuban Americans who were sent to Cuba, the Bay of Pigs fiasco. He also fought in the Vietnam War and died from complications from Agent Orange exposure. So you can see, Kim, it isn't, she has valid reasons for not, favoring one political party. That being said, Kim did admit, she is seeing that New School Democrats are trying to right past wrongs. So she's not just saying, oh, Democrats bad. So she does see that New School Democrats are trying to, I'm so sorry about what my predecessors have done. I'm very sorry about what the old school Democrats, they're racist and homophobic. They're trying to fix it to create a new non-xenophobic, non-racist, non-homophobic way of looking at the world. So she does, show both sides. It's not just one side that you hear. Now she concluded with her opinion that she would rather see all three branches of the government, executive, judicial, legislative, be composed of an equal mix of several political groups, not just Democrat and Republican. It should also be independents and Reform Party and Green Party and Independent Party. She would like to see different political groups taking turns, deciding who leads the country, who will be the next president. Moreover, she would like to see more moderates, so people for not far left, far right, but some of the people in the middle take control over those branches of government. Her reasoning is that she prefers a pragmatic, incremental change rather than, okay, I decide what everybody's going to do, in my way or the highway. Instead, just gradually get people to the center. That's pragmatic, incremental change, and then they blend both sides, so they listen to both sides, left wing and right wing, and favor bipartisan cooperation. Because we're still in that situation where with presidents, with Congress, with Supreme Court, it's one or the other. So she realized you can't change that anytime soon. So the moderates are the swing votes. They hold the balance of power. They force politicians to pivot toward the middle during general elections. So, of course, now we know, things are different right now. But anyway, so 1992, that's where Kim was standing on this issue. So, although Jimmy did not agree with Kim, he did have to admit that she did make some valid points. So he doesn't agree with her, but he respects her opinion. So, given what he knows where Kim stands now, he asked her, would she consider leaving politics out of their relationship for now? Although she was stunned, she's like, whoa, she thought that he's going to be like, oh, you're wrong, I'm right. She was stunned, but she agreed. He breathed a sigh of relief. She got his message. He got his message. He saw that this is an area where they're going to have to continue to agree to disagree. And don't. Because he's already set what he decided. She's already set what she's decided. So, they worked together to put together their meal. After they set the table and said, "Itadakimasu," thank you for the meal, they began eating and used this time to get to know each other better. Kim asked, what it was like growing up in Hawaii. So without missing a beat, Eliza said that she appreciates growing up in Hawaii. She has a chronic medical condition that doesn't have a cure. Living in the laid-back social environment helps a lot. She noticed that stress makes her condition go from bad to worse. So she goes for a walk along the beach whenever something is bothering her. Eliza also noticed that whenever her physical pain, because with cystic fibrosis, it's the lungs, it's the digestive system, her whole body's in pain. So she knows that whenever her physical pain is getting worse, her emotional pain also kicks in. Because with women, physical pain and emotional pain, they're interconnected. It's not, separate. Kim also noticed that when she has monthly pain, her emotional pain also goes through the roof. At this time, Kim asked Eliza what else Eliza does to manage pain. And Eliza talks about her physical therapy sessions when she's growing up. She had weekly physical therapy appointments to clear the mucus from her lungs. Recently, manufacturers have started making physiotherapy vests. As she straps it on, it doesn't work for her. There's no more need to go to the physical therapist every time. So, Eliza also gets weekly acupuncture treatments. They not only treat the physical pain, it also helps with her breathing and digestion. It made sense. Every system in the physical body is interconnected. It's not like this system, something is wrong and that's the only thing. No, everything is all interconnected. And Kim learned that in her public health class. At this time, Jimmy was like, no, wait a minute. I think Kim is talking about something else here. So did Kim actually mean, what is the difference between being Japanese American in Hawaii versus Japanese American in California? So Kim blushed and apologized. Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant, what Jimmy's saying. So Jimmy looked at Lisa. Lisa nodded. Jimmy gave Kim a brief history of Japanese Hawaii. And he got to the point about how things were different when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Kim leaned in. Yeah, this is what Kim was actually meaning. Because Kim knew what happened to Japanese living in California, but however, she did not know anything about Hawaii. So Japanese Americans in Hawaii did not lose everything. They kept their jobs, they kept their homes, they kept their personal property. However, people such as their parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, great-grandparents, they did lose their freedom. In addition to a mandatory curfew, so they can't just go out at night, whenever. The military followed their every move. So when they go to school, the military followed them. When they went to work, the military followed them. When they were out running errands, the military followed them. So yeah. So next, he knew Kim wanted to ask a question, but did not know how to ask without offending Eliza. So Jimmy carefully asked her to preface it. Kim first started apologizing for her ignorance and possibly offending Eliza. She carefully asked how their growing up environment was different from, say, siblings that do not have any restrictions. Without missing a beat, Elisa said that she and Jimmy are fraternal twins, so they were born the same day. Kim gasped and covered her mouth. That explained so much. If Elisa was a few years older than Jimmy, then her parents would have been forced to think, should we really have more children? Because they have, their elder brother, and then Elisa has cystic fibrosis. The burden of taking care of an elder sister who was born sick would be real to the younger sibling, and the younger sibling might resent being forced to take the firstborn role. So Jimmy added their parents made certain that he and their older brother treat Elisa the same. No special treatment here. No walking on eggshells. So together, they protected their sister from people who are ignorant of her situation because they see, oh, she's skinny, she's healthy. So they gotta protect their sister together. Their parents also made certain to not use their sister as an excuse to fail in school, not get married, etc. Everybody must do their job. Pass classes, graduate on time, get a job, stay employed. Kim replied, Naruhodo, I see. Then Kim felt freer to ask her next question. How would Jimmy starting his career in California affect their family in Hawaii? Jimmy knew the answer. He knew, regardless of where he works, he will most likely have to marry somebody outside Hawaii. Granted, there are over 1 million people in Hawaii. However, if they had the rule, you have to marry only somebody from Hawaii, they will quickly reach a genetic bottleneck. So for example, their elder brother married a person from the mainland. Their elder brother also has a firstborn son, followed by fraternal twins. So they have 3 children. They more than make up for Lisa and Jimmy should they choose or they're not able to have children of their own. So they already have 3 kids, so that's already taken care of. So Jimmy knew ahead of time he would most likely have to find somebody who's not from the island. Jimmy added that he will also be a plane ride away in case, knock on wood, he's needed back home in Hawaii quickly. So he's like, don't worry about it. If he needs to go back to Hawaii, the international airport is just, down the road, down the highway. So they already talked about this, in case Jimmy has to go start his married life in California, start work in Hawaii, in California. That's okay with them. He's just a plane ride away. So by then they finished eating dinner. After they said, Gochisousama, thank you for the meal. They worked together to clean up. Jimmy escorted Kim back to her granny unit. After she was a good night, he returned to his temporary home. The next morning, Jimmy and Eliza joined Kim at the clinic, so they want to know, about the clinic. While Kim worked at the front desk, Peter gave Jimmy and Eliza a tour of the clinic. Peter also picked Jimmy's brain about what Jimmy is currently learning at the medical school in Hawaii, because Peter got his medical school done in Los Angeles. Jimmy's getting his education in Hawaii, so they want to know give me the inside scoop. What's it like living in Hawaii, going to medical school in Hawaii. So that evening, Kim went to Jimmy and Elisa's temporary home to make dinner. After they said itadakimasu, they started eating. Much to Kim's relief, Jimmy gushed about the clinic. Jimmy loves his clinic. He and Peter hit it off. They're completely on the same page regarding the endometriosis wellness center. Jimmy also has some ideas on how to improve it, because you can see they're in this tiny little building, and they're sharing, these patient examination rooms. So Peter said that he will talk with the staff about his suggestions. So it doesn't mean we're going to do whatever Jimmy wants, but we'll talk about it. Also, Peter gave Jimmy sound advice on what he needs to do after medical school. As with most medical school graduates, most likely they have to start their career in a different state. Each state has their own medical board and rules regarding how they can start practicing in a different state. So you can't just, get a physical therapist license and California and start working as a physical therapist in Hawaii, you have to follow. Each state has its own rules. So Peter advised Jimmy also get a massage therapist certificate. Because what happens, getting the process to get your physical therapist license in California, that's going to take a lot longer than getting a massage therapist okay in the state of California. So while Jimmy's waiting for his physical therapist license in California, he can already start working as a massage therapist in California. So Peter will walk him through the process. Peter already, he's already learned what needs to be done here in California, so he can help Jimmy out. Next, Jimmy carefully thought through his next question to her. He asked her about her family. Kim had a perplexed look on her face. She's already been yelled at by her uncle. Why did you tell, this stranger, especially the stranger who is not Japanese, about what's going on with Emma? Because Kim already got yelled at. So the last thing she needs is for her family to get upset. Okay, now you told another person about what's going on with Emma. So Kim took a deep breath. She carefully said, her parents married the right person. They're right for each other. Where they could have done things differently was how they raised their younger sister. She's spoiled rotten. She expects her mother to be her unpaid housemaid. Now, this would not be an issue if her younger sister in turn helps their parents, and takes care of her own self. Before Kim could continue, Jimmy carefully asked Kim, what is good about Emma? After, Kim gave it some careful thought, she said, Emma learns by watching somebody else do it. For example, before they went to the first mochitsuki, Emma was a picky eater. If it's not her idea to eat something, she won't eat it. However, after their parents took Emma to her first mochitsuki, all of a sudden she saw how much hard work and how many people have to work together to make mochi. All of a sudden, Emma loves mochi. Each time they go to Salazi's Japantown, they go to the Dobashi mochi shop, and she has to have one of each type of mochi. This got so bad that her parents had to put their foot down, and each person has a 4 mochi limit. Because with mochi you get all many different kinds, colors, flavors, little intricate patterns on top of each mochi. So Emma expected her parents to pay for all the mochi that Emma is picking. Jimmy was stunned. Her parents' attempt at making their younger daughter less of a picky eater backfired. At this time, Eliza asked Kim about whether or not she's planning on having children of her own. Kim carefully said, if every child she has is just like her, conscientious, integrity, responsible, socially aware, respectful, frugal, then she might consider it. But if she ends up with a child like Emma, then it's a hard no. Jimmy carefully said that he needs time to think about this, but he also needs to talk to his parents what they think, because his parents have more life experience, so they'll be able to better see what's going on here. However, Jimmy assured Kim that he will make certain to not let Emma walk all over him and his family. Kim also added this also applies to her parents. If her parents don't help him and his family, then they also need to put their foot down on her parents, when their parents ask for the help. He nodded. At this time, they finished eating dinner. Thank you for the meal. They cleaned up. Kim returned to the grand unit. After another day at the clinic, so this is one, we're going to have to put this on the back burner because they need to talk to their parents about what's going on with Kim and her situation. After another day at the clinic, the next evening, they made dinner together. After they sit at the table, they resumed the conversation. Elisa asked Kim about her career plans. Does she want to teach? She would only need a master's degree. Kim immediately said, no, thank you. She has a tremendous amount of respect toward all of her professors from San Francisco to Los Angeles to Canada to Berkeley. She can see some of the professors in the public university, the ones in San Francisco, do not have the minimum amount of skills needed to be tenured. Yet, somehow, they were granted tenure. So, just because somebody has a PhD doesn't mean that you should they're the right people to become tenure-track professors, is what Kim is trying to say. Also, all of our professors from the public university, including the ones in Berkeley, are union members. If they choose the wrong union that won't do whatever it takes to prevent the strike from happening in the first place, then the students are at the mercy, the constant threat of having the professors go on strike rather than teacher students, and the same applies to graduate students. Jimmy carefully said, the same thing is going on in Hawaii. There's politics going on. So that also convinced him not to teach at the public university level as well. And Elisa, same thing. After Elisa completes graduate school, she will get her therapist license and start her own private practice. Because at this time, Jimmy asked him for an update. Kim said that she'll graduate the following spring with a bachelor's degree in music and public health. Her senior capstone project in music will be her own self-produced music CD. In terms of public health, she has gathered all the information she needs to talk about how some cities and countries, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, England, Paris, Canada, Japan, treats childbirth. So she will create a senior capstone and paper about all of her findings. She's going to put it all in one paper. If Kim is accepted into graduate school, she is not certain what her master's thesis in public health might cover. She might expand on her term paper about the fact that there's no accountability regarding what public schools teach students regarding their sexual health. In terms of music, she already started researching the African American music scene that used to exist in San Francisco. With gentrification, one by one, African Americans are being squeezed out of the city financially. She might make a paper about this part of music history. She will have more information within a year or less. So, when Elisa looked at Jimmy, he nodded. She went to her room, gave Kim one more book. Judith Herman's book titled Trauma and Recovery: The Aftermath of Violence from Domestic Violence to Political Terror. It was published in June of that year. Kim skimmed the cover and read the introduction. She gasped and covered her mouth. Elisa carefully said that although made in Japan Japanese and Japanese Americans had completely different experiences during the war, their trauma was passed down to their children. Kim offered to buy her own copy, but Elisa shook her head. No, this is her gift to her. So Kim thanked Elisa. At this time, she carefully asked Elisa, how can somebody find the right therapist? Even if there's a therapist in San Francisco who specializes in trauma therapy, they may not fully understand the Japanese experience of the war. And even if there were one, they may not be Japanese American. Another possibility, maybe they come from a different Asian group who is prejudiced against Japanese people and feel that this is payback for Pearl Harbor. Elisa said that's the $1 million question. That being said, Elisa offered her services. Elisa has already taken a class about this topic, and she's decided to make her master's thesis about intergenerational trauma among the Japanese American community. That night, Kim took a very long, very hot bath, used some time to process some of that conversation. Is it really possible to use therapy to heal intergenerational trauma? Moreover, this country is way too dependent on throwing money at the problem. Granted, everyone, including therapists, needs to pay off their student loans. That night, also, Kim had a recurring dream. She was outdoors at a park. After going through a maze that was constructed by waist-high bushes, she finally arrived at the center. There was a couch with two inanimate dolls. One of the dolls was her father. The other doll was her mother. She was talking with them even though she knew that they won't talk back. All of a sudden, she was chased by an unidentified monster. She had that nightmare ever since her younger sister was born in this country. She woke up and wondered how can she resolve this dream, because this is her trauma. Her younger sister is born. All of a sudden, her parents aren't around. So the next evening after work, Kim, okay. So let me go back to the story. So next evening after work, Kim told Elisa about her recurring dream. Elisa gave her instructions on what to do to activate lucid dreaming. So that night, Kim completely controlled the dream. So she was back outside. This time she went to a store that had the Jesus stone statue. These statues are used by people who experience the loss of an unborn baby, a baby or a young child who passed away before their parents passes away. The statue is thought to protect the souls of these children. Kim put the statue next to the couch. All of a sudden, the monster reappeared. However, as soon as the monster got close to the Jesus doll, the monster disappeared. The dream stopped haunting her. At this time, Elisa talked with Kim about the characteristics of queer folk. They learned early on that there are people, including immediate family members, that are homophobic. As a result, they learned how to read people from a distance. And Elisa told Kim that she noticed the same, that Japanese Americans are similar in that. They learn how to read people from a distance. We learned early on that some people are xenophobic and racist, so some of us learned early on how to read people. Lisa noticed that this is very pronounced with Kim. Kim gasped and covered her mouth. It made sense. She's been doing that ever since her family made the permanent move from Japan to California. She must have picked up on the fact that her residence hall assistant who ran the homophobia event is transphobic. So when the assistant screamed at the trans person at the university restroom, Kim was not surprised. She did the same when she met a fellow Japanese American at the same university and realized that his parents' siblings are homophobic, even though she never met them. She only met her classmate. The same applies to the Hashimoto Murphy family in San Francisco. As sharp contrast, the Smith family is not homophobic. Kim was not. I was like, whoa, because you would think, if you meet somebody for the first time, they don't know anything about you. But Lisa, she's very, instead of being busy talking, she's very busy observing other people's behavior. And she did the same thing with Kim. She's like, oh yeah, I have you figured out. So they had some more conversations throughout the week. That weekend, it's kind of unnerving when you meet somebody who can see right through you. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point. But anyway, they had some more conversations during the week. That week, Kim and Lucas from the studio took Jimmy and Liza to the various district that used to have a vibrant music scene in San Francisco. She talked about various singers from, she as in Kim, because you can tell Kim loves music. So Kim talked about the various singers from Etta James, Johnny Mathis, Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead. These singers spent part of their life in the city. At this time, Eliza asked Kim whether or not she had heard about music therapy. Because music therapy, because Lisa is starting to become a therapist, so she asked Kim about music therapy. Kim's eyes lit up, and it made sense. Some music helps Kim calm down, such as Enya. Lisa said that there's also art therapy as well. On Sunday, Kim took them to a Buddhist temple in the city. Lisa and Jimmy did not pay the annual membership fee, but they did make a donation to the temple. That evening, they dined together and promised to meet again the following year. This part, I actually changed this part here. They're not going to meet next year. I'm going to tell you what's going on next. At this time, Lisa gave Cam one more gift. Louise Hay's book titled You Can Heal Your Life. That evening, she started to skim through the book before she started to read it. She wrote back to the back of the 1984 book. She saw a list of resources, addresses, landline telephone numbers, various organizations in Canada, United Kingdom, and the United States. This time, Jimmy told Kim that he's going to complete his doctorate next spring. Then he'll start his postdoctoral fellowship. He's going to get some more knowledge and training about how to help women who have endometriosis, as well as how to help them recover from surgery. At the same time, he'll get trained to become a certified massage therapist. She wished him good luck. He was the same for her. This time, Jimmy said that if it's alright with Kim, he would like to bring their elder brother, sister-in-law, and their 3 children to visit San Francisco next summer. They would like to teach their children how the Japanese American experience on the West Coast differs from Hawaii. Much to his relief, Kim said that she'll be thrilled. He said that he'll call them to let them know to pack their bags. So next year, she's going to meet their brother, their older brother, his wife, their 3 children. Before they left, Elisa had Jimmy and Kim go to a local arts and crafts store to make a matching pair of friendship bracelets. After they put it on, Jimmy said, "Meow, it suits you." Next morning, Kim saw them at the airport. She drove to the clinic to resume work. The rest of the summer, Kim was a patient and the front desk clerk at the clinic. In the morning, in the afternoon, she worked at the studio. Evenings, weekends, and holidays, she resumed her correspondence courses, preparing for her senior year at Berkeley. At this time, Jimmy and Kim resumed sending each other letters via postal mail. So, questions, comments, constructive criticisms, asking for clarification, let me know, and I shall see you next time. Take care. See ya.